May 1969. 2 months before humanity would take its first step onto the lunar surface. The crew of Apollo 10, Gene Cernan, John Young, and Tom Stafford are the dress rehearsal for history. Their mission is to do everything but land. As their lunar module, nicknamed Snoopy, descends, it passes behind the moon, severing all contact with Earth. For 1 hour, they are completely alone. No radio contact, no telemetry, nothing but the silent, pockmarked landscape below and the blackness of space above. On board, the astronauts are startled. Their mission transcript captures their confusion. This music from the void continued for nearly the entire hour they were out of contact. The astronauts were so baffled, so unnerved, they debated whether to even report it to mission control, fearing they would be written off as crazy and grounded from future flights. This recording and its transcript were then classified and buried in NASA's archives. For nearly 50 years, the public had no idea it even happened. What did the crew of Apollo 10 hear on the far side of the moon? And why did NASA keep this tape and others hidden from the world? This is the story of NASA's lost tapes, a story of strange sounds, erased history, and a persistent question. What else are they not telling us? To understand why a strange sound on a tape would be buried, you have to understand the world of the 1960s. The race to the moon wasn't just a scientific endeavor. It was the front line of the Cold War. Every mission was a high-stakes battle for technological and ideological supremacy against the Soviet Union. National security was absolute. NASA was not just an exploration agency. It was an extension of the state, staffed by military officers and test pilots. The astronauts themselves were a special breed. Men like John Young and Gene Cernan were not prone to flights of fancy. They were hardened engineers and test pilots, trained to remain cool and analytical under unimaginable pressure. Their job was to observe, report data, and fly the machine. So when their official transcripts show them reacting with genuine confusion and even awe, it carries immense weight. In this environment, any anomaly was a potential threat. Strange sound could be a sign of a critical system failure, a psychological event, or worse, something completely unknown. The policy was simple: need to know. Information was compartmentalized and tightly controlled. Anything that could cause public panic, sow doubt in the multi-billion-dollar Apollo program, or give the Soviets a perceived advantage, would have been immediately classified. The story of what happened on Apollo 10 was locked away. One of the first secrets in a growing file of unexplained encounters in space? The space music of Apollo 10 is the most well-documented audio mystery in the NASA archives. For an hour, the 3 astronauts listened as the strange, otherworldly sounds echoed through their headsets, a phenomenon they simply could not explain. When they finally re-established contact with mission control, they reported the whistling, but the conversation was cagey. No one wanted to be the first to suggest something was fundamentally wrong. The tapes were filed away, and the incident became a footnote that only a few insiders knew about, until they were finally declassified in 2016. But the Apollo 10 audio isn't the only lost tape story that has fueled decades of suspicion. A far more famous mystery surrounds the single greatest moment in human exploration: the Apollo 11 moon landing. This footage is arguably the most famous video in history. But what almost no one knows is that this blurry, ghost-like image is not the original. It's a degraded copy. The actual landing was captured by a special camera using a format called slow scan television, or SSTV. This high-quality signal was beamed to Earth and received at tracking stations in Australia and California. It was then converted to the standard broadcast format for the live TV audience, a process that severely reduced its quality. The original, pristine SSTV broadcast was recorded onto massive reels of magnetic data tape. For decades, it was assumed that these 700 boxes of master tapes, the highest quality recording of humanity, this finest hour, were stored safely in a climate-controlled vault at the Goddard Space Flight Center, waiting for future technology to reveal them in all their glory. But when historians and researchers went looking for them in the early 2000s, they made a shocking discovery. The tapes were gone. This vanishing, combined with a history of other astronaut sightings, like Mercury 7 astronaut Gordon Cooper, who was a staunch believer in UFOs and claimed to have seen a greenish light, approach his capsule in 1963, painted a picture for many of a deliberate, systematic cover-up. NASA, it seemed, had a habit of losing its most sensitive and unexplainable recordings. For decades, conspiracy theories swirled. Was the Apollo 10 music an alien signal? Did the Apollo 11 tapes show something in the background that NASA needed to hide? The truth, when it was finally pieced together, was not a conspiracy. It was, in some ways, far more human and, in one case, profoundly embarrassing. Let's start with the space music. After the Apollo 10 transcripts were declassified, NASA engineers revisited the audio. They concluded that the strange whistling was not alien. It was an elegant, if mundane, case of radio interference. The VHF radios in the lunar module Snoopy and the command module Charlie Brown were both active and in close proximity. On the far side of the moon, shielded from the constant radio noise of Earth, these two radios were interfering with each other, creating a feedback loop. The outer space-type music was the sound of their own technology singing back at them. So what about the pristine master tapes of the moon landing? Were they hidden in Area 51? Confiscated by shadowy men in black to hide evidence of a faked landing or a UFO encounter? The reality is almost painfully bureaucratic. After a multi-year search, NASA came to a devastating conclusion. In the 1970s and 80s, the agency was facing a severe shortage of high-quality magnetic data tapes, which were incredibly expensive. A contractor, following what was then a standard and tragically short-sighted procedure to save money, took the 700 boxes of Apollo 11 master tapes from the archive and simply erased them. The first best record of Neil Armstrong's giant leap for mankind was taped over, likely with data from a weather satellite. There was no conspiracy. It was a colossal, irreversible, administrative blunder. So we go looking for a conspiracy, for evidence of secrets and cover-ups. We find radio feedback and a heartbreaking story of poor archival practices. It's almost disappointing. And that perhaps reveals a deeper truth about why these stories are so powerful. The idea of a cover-up is often more compelling than the alternative. The thought that NASA is hiding evidence of alien life gives a sense of profound importance to our place in the universe. In contrast, the thought that one of humanity's greatest achievements was treated so carelessly that it was erased to save a few dollars is deeply unsettling. A conspiracy provides meaning, while a blunder just reveals human fallibility. But the spirit of the mystery that drove the Apollo program is not diminished by these explanations. The universe is still vast, strange, and full of unanswered questions, while the Apollo 10 music was just feedback, and the original moon landing tapes are lost to time. The fundamental human drive to explore the void and listen for a signal from the unknown remains. These stories persist because they touch upon our deepest hopes and fears about what lies beyond our tiny blue planet. In the end, we may never find a lost tape that proves we are not alone. But the very fact that NASA had a policy for dealing with the unexplained shows they were prepared for the possibility. And it leaves us with a final, chilling question. If, on a future mission to Mars or beyond, an astronaut did record a signal that was undeniably alien, would we be told? Or would that recording simply be filed away, creating a new lost tape for a future generation to hunt for? If you were captivated by the mysteries of the Apollo program, you must learn about the unexplained death of Phil Schneider, engineer, who claimed he survived a secret battle with aliens in a deep underground base.